We've got an Amiga 600 in for repair this week, and it's got a weird fault. In Workbench, there's corruption on the sides of the screen, and in games, you get corruption in sprites. So let's get it onto the bench, and let's see if we can figure out what's wrong. Now, fancy editing effects aside, let's show you what it's actually doing. So we're in Workbench here, and you can see just on the left hand side of the screen, beside the RAM disk and the MISC disk, there's a part of the border missing, just along here. And if we go and open, say, a text file, and if we scroll through this, you can see the corruption gets quite bad just on that left hand side, and you can see a similar sort of thing just on the right hand side. Now, interestingly, it isn't always there. For example, it's gone now on the Workbench screen, and if we open this other document, well, it's not there to start with. It's not until I start to scroll. There it is. If we take a look in games, and it doesn't seem to affect all games, but Wings here, well, occasionally during this intro, you'll get some glitching. Just on the biplane itself, as it moves across the screen. Let's see if it happens. No, of course it's fine this time, because I'm recording it. But certainly on this screen, when the credits start to scroll up it, we should see the corruption. So just around the words that are scrolling, there it is. You get that occasional flash. And that's definitely not right. Similar sort of problem in Ultima 6. You get these occasional flashes of corruption on the screen. Now, it doesn't seem to affect every game. For example, I played Cannon Fodder on this last night for a good hour or so, and there was no corruption whatsoever. But another one that is affected is Street Fighter 2. Yeah, not exactly a good game on the Amiga, but let's just show you quickly. Now, this is a dreadful port, but we should on occasion see a bit of corruption around the characters. Can I even do one special move? Oh my god, this is so bad. It is so unresponsive. But there are the occasional flash of just a little bit of corruption there. Yay! I pulled off a move. Next to impossible in this terrible port. Yeah, that is enough of that. But that's the problem that we're dealing with. So it is very minor, but we've been asked to have a look at it. But before I go pulling bits off this machine, I first want to try a couple of things. So I should have said this machine belongs to one of my patrons, goes by CRG Dev. And I know what you're thinking, the Amiga 600 probably just needs recapped. Well, he beat us to it, because he recapped this himself, although he openly admits he didn't do the best job. Now, there's a couple of capacitors missing here, 3 electrolytics, but those are not required. Those are only handling signals going to the RF modulator. We can check it on PCB Explorer, although granted, The A600 they have is a Rev 2A. This is a Rev 1.5, so there will be a couple of subtle differences. Those three caps though, I think they're the same. That one is supplying a 5V video voltage to the modulator. This one is handling, is that doing composite video? Well, it might well be, but it does ultimately wind up at the modulator. It's not going to the composite video port. And yeah, that last one there, that is doing audio to the modulator. So you can't leave those out. But one thing that I've just noticed here actually, when he has refitted some of the other capacitors, that one, I don't know if this will come across on camera, but you can see the pin just sticking out there from the bottom of the cap. It's sitting just off to the right from where the pad is. Now I've got the multimeter here. If I can get this onto those points. And yeah, I don't think that is connected. Well, sorry, it maybe is. If I push on it there, but that might warrant some further investigation. I might wind up having to remove that and refit it. There are a couple of crusty looking vias in around here as well. But I'm not convinced, to be honest, that it's going to be an issue like that. Although it is a bit weird that I had a brief conversation with Gadget UK about this, just talking about Amiga things, and I mentioned this was coming for repair. And he thought it might actually be some sort of power related thing. And the more that I'm looking at this, with the work that's been done in and around this area, which is the power area, I'm sort of wondering if he might be onto something there, because while it is showing corruption here for me, it doesn't seem to be as bad as was originally described. And in fact, the guy who owns this, he has a video on YouTube showing the corruption, and he's running the Amiga, and in that it does seem to be quite a bit more evident. It certainly happens on screen a lot more often than it does here. The solder work around those capacitors is a bit dodgy. In fact, I'm pretty sure that capacitor might not even be attached, or is barely attached, because I can move it back and forward quite freely there. In fact, I reckon if I keep doing this, it'll just fall off. Just like that. There's a couple more caps then underneath that floppy drive, and I suppose we may as well just remove it to check that work as well. Well, it's not too bad, although I can see a little bit of solder just on the positive side of that cap there. That's just coming from that pad up onto the can of it. So let's just be sure that that isn't shorting anything. No, it doesn't seem to be. Wait a minute. That has a dead short there between what's labelled as the positive side of C304 to ground. Surely that can't be right. And yeah, no, that actually is correct. The positive side of that goes to audio ground, but in reality it's just a shared ground across the board. So I think before we do anything else, I should fix the solder work around these capacitors and touch up a few things in this area. To help me with that, I'm going to remove those couple of through-hole caps just so that I can get better access to that one. And I'm going to remove the keyboard connector here just so I can get better access to that cap to refit it. Okay, I'm happier with how all that looks now, and you might have noticed that I essentially wound up recapping it again, or well, the surface mount caps anyway. In the process of trying to tidy them up, it was just easier in the end to remove them, and through removing them, well, I thought let's just replace them. Probably could have reused these again, but they're just a little bit melted in places, so decided just to replace them. The 3 through-hole caps, though, those are the original ones from the first recap. Just reused them. They came out fine. One very minor bit of damage, though, that you might have noticed. We lost a pod just in there on one of those capacitor locations that isn't being used. Not really sure how that came off. I was just going over it all with a bit of braid and the pod just lifted away. It might well have been loose and I just didn't notice before, but I definitely wasn't using any excessive force or anything like that, so yeah, sorry about that, but it's not being used, so I suppose it's not the end of the world. But has that made any difference? Everything is hooked up here, ready to go, so let's test it. And well, no corruption in workbench just yet. Let's load one of those documents again though. If we scroll down through this, it was looking so good for a second there, but no, there is the corruption back. What about in the game itself? So just skipping ahead to this section, because this is where we seen the corruption ourselves last time. And yep, it's still there. Just the occasional flash of it though. And I suppose looking at that there, I'm wondering, is that a background layer? Or well, perhaps maybe a transparent layer around that text that seems to be flashing? Because when it does flash, it seems as if the text itself is okay. It's just like a box around the text, which gets corrupted. Let's try Ultima 6 as well. I think we'll just ignore Street Fighter 2. Awful port of a game. And yeah, straight away there, as soon as this scene came up, corruption. But again, when it does flash up there, it's it's not like it's a solid bit of corruption over the whole screen. The character sitting in the foreground there, he seems to be okay. It's just the background behind him is where the corruption happens. But if you notice when it does flash up there, it's like cutting out where the TV is. So could that be a clue? It would be really handy to know how the graphics in this and in Wings, that scrolling, how that is drawn. Because our Amiga here, well, Denise, that is the video chip, as you know, but Agnus here, Agnus has the coprocessor, the copper, and the blitter in there as well. And potentially, if those things we're seeing are blitter objects, well, it could point to a problem within Agnus. Agnus, who I might note is kind of hot, but equally, ooh, so is Denise. Denise is really hot. But yeah, it definitely does look like a digital problem, not necessarily a voltage problem or an analog problem like that. Nothing to do with capacitors, I mean. One thing I would like to test quickly, I've got my own Amiga 600 here. This one. So I just want to take this CF card and plug it into my machine and take this memory expansion and that fast RAM expansion sitting on top of the CPU, put them on there just to test all of that, just to try and rule out any potential problems with the setup on the CF card or with the RAM on these things. Let's start with that text file again. So no, that's okay now. Yeah, that seems to be okay. Let's try and run the game. So just skipping forward to this bit of the intro again. Now let's see what happens on the scrolling text. Well, all looks okay. None of that corruption. Yep, that seems to be fine. So I suppose that's ruling out any potential issues with that CF card or these two RAM expansions. That's not to say, however, that there mightn't be something wrong with the RAM on this motherboard. You know, it may not be an issue with Agnus or with Denise. It might be an issue with what they're reading from the memory. So I've got Diagrom in here, and yeah, I know that says Diagrom A500. It's the same thing for the 600. Let's just see what this does. So booting as normal there. And yeah, it all looks right so far. It has detected the additional memory. So let's start by running a memory test. And we will test the chip RAM. 2 megabytes of it, so this will take a minute. Okay, it's on its 4th pass and no errors found, so I think it's safe to say that all the RAM on here is fine. So graphic tests, test picture, yeah, there it is, and that looks okay. Test screen, I think that looks okay. I'm not 100% sure though. Test scroll, yeah, that seems to be okay. Test raster, and that looks okay. RGB test, ooh, that definitely doesn't look okay. Something is wrong there. So just for the sake of completeness, I've got my own 600 out again with Diagrom in this. Just want to run those graphics tests again, just to be sure what we were seeing on the other machine is an indication of a fault. So test picture, and yeah, that looks okay. Test screen, and that's different. Yeah, there's more colors on that. The only colors that we got on the other machine, other than the whites and greys, was red. Test scroll, and again, that looks okay. Test raster, that looks the same. And then the RGB test. Well, no, again on my machine here, that is not looking right. That is screwing up. So maybe actually that is a quirk of Diagrom. Okay, decided to upgrade to Diagrom version 2.0. Now it's only an alpha version of it, but let's try this. So graphic tests, test picture, and yeah, that looks the same. Or does it? Or does it? See that yellow bit at the bottom of the circle below key to exit? There's a grey bar in the middle of that. Was it not red when we ran Diagrom on my own 600? Test screen. Again, we're missing all the colours there. It's all just red, white or grey. The scroll, well, scrolling okay, but I still think we're missing that red colour at the bottom of the screen. Raster, that looks alright. And the RGB test, well, yeah, that is RGB. If I go in and out of that, we are though now not seeing that corruption that we seen last time, whether running it on this or on my own machine. I just want to swap over to my own one again to test this version of Diagrom. Just want to see what those colours look like on that full screen image. So we'll just go straight into the graphic tests again. And the test picture, yeah, that definitely looks different. We've got that red bar at the bottom in that yellow segment, but even the colors at the top, I think they look different as well now. There is the test screen with a full range of colors in it. We're not getting that on the other machine. And even in the test scroll, that red bar is there again. Raster looks the same between them both as does the RGB test itself. But that picture is definitely different. So yeah, I am leaning towards the problem being Denise. The Denise chip in my 600 here, it does get hot, but it is nowhere near as hot as the Denise on that other board. I think we should swap the chips. It is a bit of a faff, but I think we should swap my one for the one on that other board. I'm just thinking here that, you know, while I'm reasonably confident that the problem is going to be Denise, I wonder if it could potentially be the likes of these two 4.4s. Because if we just take a look at the schematic very quickly, well, you can see they are handling all the digital RGB lines between Denise and the video encoder. Now granted, said encoder has nothing to do with the RGB port, it's just passing the RGB straight through. But if that was the case, if it was a problem in one of those, or perhaps even those transistors just after them, I would expect you to see more like a full screen color issue rather than just bits of corruption. The other side of Denise there, as you can see, is just the data bus and the address bus. I don't think we have any issues like that on this machine because it otherwise seems to work fine. So yeah, let's get Denise off. Now, like always, when we're going to remove a chip, I'm going to go round it first with a bit of flux and a bit of fresh solder. This helps get things moving. And I suppose, you know, is it even worth just reflowing Denise here and seeing if that makes any difference? I did have a look at it, you know, looking around the solder joints, and to be honest with you, they all looked okay. Didn't see any evidence of anything potentially having cracked. And if it was a bad connection as such, I don't think that would manifest just as a bit of corruption on screen. As I said, I think this is a digital issue more than anything else, so let's just take it off. Hot air then. And we'll just keep this moving until that chip comes free. Now, I would normally use a bit of Kapton tape just to protect other components in the area, but it's pretty well isolated, this package, so I think it'll be okay. I'll just let that cool for a second and then I'll go over it all with braid. There isn't really any signs of corrosion or anything under that, so you know, I don't think that's been an issue. And it might make a fool out of me here. There might be nothing wrong with Denise, but I suppose there's only one way to find out. Then we'll just do the same on my board. Well, take Denise off that, stick it on there, and see what happens. So new Denise fitted, and we're in Diagrom again here, version 2.0. Let's try the test picture. Yes, that looks right. We now have the red bar at the bottom and in the colors along the top. What about the test screen? Yep, there's all the colors. Certainly looking like it was a faulty Denise. Test scroll. Yeah, again, that is a bit jittery, isn't it? Yeah, it's not quite right, is it? I think that should be scrolling smoother than that. Test raster, that always looks okay. And RGB test, yeah, that's fine. Let's just take a look at that scroll again. Yeah, something not right there. But at least the colors now look right. So we'll swap back over to Kickstart 3.1. Let's see what it looks like in Workbench and in those games. Okay, no corruption initially there in Workbench. Let's get one of those README files and let's try and scroll through this. Well, no corruption. Yeah, that's looking good. Nothing is coming up there. I want to try Ultima 6. Let's see if we get any of the corruption on screen. Okay, let's see. Well, don't see. Oh, no, there it is. Oh, it was all looking so good. But no. We're back to getting occasional flashes of corruption there. So could there have been two faults on this machine? Might there have been a fault in Denise, which we've now corrected by replacing it, but might there also be another fault somewhere else that's causing this corruption? We have tested the memory. That all checked out okay, so what else can it be? Agnus? I can't really think of it being anything else, to be honest. So should we try and change the fat lady? Just going to reset here, just to try it all again. Well, if we think back to Diagrom, remember we seen like jittering in the image as I was trying to scroll? Is it the blitter that does scrolling like that? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, in terms of the Amiga's graphics systems. But I think it might be the blitter doing that, and that lives within Agnus. Let's just try wings. Just want to see if we get the corruption in that. I mean, I'm pretty sure we will, but let's just try it. And skipping ahead to this title sequence, let's see on the text. Yep, there it is. Exactly the same problem. It's just next to impossible, I think, to try and test for, you know, a problem like that. It's so intermittent that I think you'd need some sort of logic analyzer to, you know, hook on to Agnus and watch everything closely to see if, you know, a single bit is getting stuck somewhere at some point. And saying that, it's not behaving like it's a stuck bit. If it was a stuck bit on your data bus or something, this thing wouldn't work. And it otherwise is working fine. It might just be a register within Agnus. You know, one single register that is bad and is causing that flash of corruption. Don't really know though. And look at that, there's that colour away again. So that seemingly had nothing to do with Denise. And the test screen, yeah, there's all the colours away again. What is going on with this machine? You know, I wonder actually, could that be symptom of a bad joint somewhere? You know, something causing high impedance on a single line somewhere, you know, not quite broken, but it's just enough to screw things up on us. I might go around and reflow everything in this area on the top and the bottom of the board. I think it would be easier to do that rather than just jump in and try to change that chip, because there's quite a bit of work in doing so. Right, I have reflowed this entire area of the board, top side and bottom. Went around Agnus as well. Let's see what happens. Still just on Diagrom. So, graphic tests. Yep, test picture, that red is missing once again. We still have this problem. Why? that last time when I first tested it, why did it seem to work? And now it's not. I really am running out of ideas. Test screen. Yep, all those colors are missing again. So maybe one of these passives is faulty somewhere. But I would think it unlikely that, you know, one of them would go bad, or go bad in such a way that it would cause this sort of problem. Especially more so with those glitching graphics in the game. I think that's more likely to be a chip. Let's take Agnus off. We'll swap it with the one on my board, and let's see what that does. Don't really like doing this. It is a bit of a shot in the dark, isn't it? But I just can't find any other smoking gun. So, Agnus off. That was incredibly difficult to get off. But it is off now, with no damage. This board does need a minute to cool down though. Right, Agnus swapped. Let's see what it does. Still with Diagrom for now. And into the graphic tests. Test picture. No. Still don't have that red. Test screen. And yeah, colors are all screwed up. I have no idea. I suppose one test actually, because while I have taken those two chips off my 600, you know, sticking them on there, I have actually fitted said original chips, you know, from that board to my 600 board. So let's plug this in quickly and see what this does now. So let's try the graphic test in here. Look at that. We now don't have the red on this one either. And then that test screen, well, we don't have the colors. Test scroll, we're missing the reds there as well. But if that is being caused by a problem in, say, Agnus there, why are we not getting it on this board? I am honestly at a complete loss with this. I think what we'll do is, let's go back to this one. We'll stick 3.1 in. Let's just boot Workbench and we'll try the game. Just in case this is some random bug in Diagrom and it's just dumb luck that the colors have been appearing or disappearing as they have. Okay, so in Workbench, the border all looks fine as it did before after we swapped Denise. Let's just go to that document again. And if we scroll down through this, yeah, no corruption. So that's still good. But what about if we try the game? And again, just skipping you forward to this title screen. Let's keep an eye on that text. Looks good so far. Actually, I don't see any of the corruption. And yeah, that is promising. That corruption in that scrolling text is gone. I want to try it in Ultima 6 as well. And yeah, looking good so far. I'm just going to leave this on the screen for, say, about 5 minutes or so. So this just keeps looping here. You have to actually press the mouse to get this to advance. I'm just going to leave it though, keep an eye on it and see what happens. And well, yeah, there has been no corruption. So it's fixed? Maybe? Is it? Problems seem to be solved in Workbench and in games. Why though do we still have the problem in Diagrom? Not unless that just is a bug in Diagrom and it's just been dumb luck when we've been testing it between the two machines that you know, it's just looked right when it did and looked faulty when it did. If anybody maybe knows about that, let me know. Let me know down in the comments. There is one thing that I want to test though, just to try and confirm that the issue is within Agnus. As you've seen, it is fitted to my other 600, so let's bring it over again one last time and we'll boot to that CF card and let's see if the corruption returns. So booting on my 600 now, I've just borrowed the 4 meg fast RAM module here just so that we can boot the game. But look at that, as soon as it's dropped into Workbench, there's that corruption down the left hand side of the screen. So yeah, I think that pretty much confirms it. The issue was Agnus. Let's just try and scroll through the same document again. Yeah, I can see the corruption already. Yep, there it is. And if we just boot the game, and once again just skipping forward to this bit, let's see what happens. Yep, there it is. Corruption in that text once again. So yeah, it must be a fault within Agnus. So I'll have to try and source another one of them for myself. And just for completeness, in Ultima 6. Yep, I seen it there. The corruption is back. So that pretty much confirms it, doesn't it? Must have been Agnus. Although I am sort of wondering if within Workbench is the issue on screen being caused by Denise. Because remember when we first swapped that seemed to disappear. Although the corruption in games, it remained until we swapped over Agnus. So very possibly I will need to try and source myself 2 chips here. Although I think in the first instance I will just try and get myself another Agnus. Because it does seem that the fat lady, well, she might be singing her last songs here. This one seems to be on the way out. Well, that's it, all back together, ready to go back to CRPG Dev. Hopefully it continues to work well for him for the foreseeable. Now, I did have a quick chat with him just about the little bit of damage just around where the modulator was. In fact, he asked me to remove the modulator. There it is there. There's now a hole in the back of the case. That'll let him fit something else in there, say like an RGB to HDMI. He can do that himself in the future. But that pad that we lost, well, he tells me that that was loose anyway. So I think that's why it just fell off when I was trying to tidy things up. He's not too worried about it. It's no longer required, especially since this thing is no longer in there. In terms of the actual repair itself though, what do you think? Was it just Agnus or was it both Agnus and Denise? I'm sort of leaning on it actually being faults in both those chips, which I must say is a first for me. And I suppose that raises the question, was it really worth doing this? Yeah, okay, it's a nice clean Amiga 600, but if you consider that those chips, Agnus, probably 60, 70 pounds or so, and Super Denise, I don't know, 30 to 40 pounds. So say anything from 90 to 110 pounds to get both of them. I don't know. You can buy a full Amiga 600 for similar sort of money. And in fact, if I do need to get both those chips to get my own 600 up and running again, I think what I'll probably do instead is just look out for another 600, possibly one that's faulty. You know, you can pick them up for 70, 80 pounds on their own. So, was it worth doing? Probably not from a financial point of view. Definitely interesting from the point of view of the fault itself and what was causing it. But yeah, I'm not sure. Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. Equally, if anyone is more familiar with Diagrom, is that a bug? It did send me on a bit of a wild goose chase, didn't it? And I'm sort of leaning on, yeah, I think it probably is a bug in there. Now, I know Chucky sometimes watches these videos. If by any chance you're watching this one, please let me know. Is it a bug or is it something else that I'm missing? But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Why not hit subscribe if you haven't done so already? Still plenty more yet to come here on CRG, and I'll see you next time.